a good one.
Welcome back to Mark Fisher Outdoors, everybody. I'm Mark Fisher, back in town after a second very disappointing invitationals tournament. This one was on West Point Lake in Georgia. Tough week in a lot of ways. It's a tough fishery. Spotted bass lake that has some largemouth in it, not a ton of largemouth, but it did seem like the largemouth that were in it were nice quality. Anyway, went into the event thinking, I think I got areas where I can very quickly, within a short period of time, get 5 spotted bass and then spend the day fishing for largemouth. It's a tournament where, after talking to guys on the water the first couple of days, if you could catch a decent largemouth, and when I'm saying a decent largemouth, I'm talking about 4 or 5 pounder, and I know and talk to guys that were catching fish that were in the 6-7 pound range. If you could catch a good kicker largemouth each day, along with having 5 decent spotted bass, come in with somewhere around 11 to 12 pounds, you'd be in that check range. And gosh, if you got lucky and ended up catching a couple kicker bass, largemouth, then you'd be making that top 30 cut. So it didn't work out that way for me. Ended up catching a few largemouth during practice, and certainly came across some spots that I felt like, some areas that I felt like I could get spotted bass pretty quickly. But here's the thing, guys. I made a mistake that I'm not going to say it cost me cashing a check, but it's a mistake that I just have to tighten up on in fishing these tournaments. And I want to talk about that. And it reminds me, in thinking about this episode, I go back to the very first episode that Megan and I did. Why am I doing this YouTube channel? And basically, it's a lot of what I'm doing is sharing the mistakes that I made in hopes that we can all improve from them. And this is one of those that I come home from tournaments, and I'm from Georgia to Illinois, it's a 12-hour drive, and I'm in the car thinking, okay, what mistakes did I make? And, what do I need to improve on? And one of the things that I'm coming to is the realization that I need to correct these mistakes and think about these mistakes on the boat, on the lake, or at least after day 1 to be able to correct them for day 2. I can't wait until the drive home to correct these mistakes. The mistake that I'm thinking about here intentionally is I was using, I was throwing a Kitech, and the way, and I think I was one of few guys that were throwing a Kitech in this. The water was very dirty, but I found that if I could throw that Kitech along the bottom on that chunk rock and bounce it off the bottom as it was swimming along, I was getting bit. And I was getting, even though the water was as dirty as it was, I was still getting bites in comparison to what I was hearing from buddies of mine in terms of, okay, yeah, I'm getting a bite or 2 an hour, and that seemed like that was pretty consistent with what other guys were getting, throwing crankbaits or things like that. And so I started throwing a Kitech, and I first started throwing a little 3.3 Kitech. And because of the smaller Kitech, I was throwing it using a guppy head. And I was using a very light action spinning rod, because when that Kitech would get hung on the rocks, I'd want to be able to bounce it out without having to go all the way up to where it snagged and kind of pull it out of there. I could be able to flip the rod line or kind of use the rod tip to jiggle that out. At some point during practice, I switched over to a 3/8 Kitech and continued to use the guppy head jig head as opposed to switching to a tush rig, which was a terrible mistake. A tush rig, being able to handle a 3/8 Kitech, would have come through the rocks much better without getting hung as much. At which point I would have been able to use a stiffer spinning rod, and at which point I would have been able to get much better hook sets on those spotted bass. The problem that I was identifying, and I know it's taken a while for me to tell you this, is I was losing as many fish as I was catching. That first spot that I was in that you saw, I ended up catching 3 or 4 fish in that first roadbed that came off of a point. I ended up catching 3 or 4 fish at that spot within the first hour each day that I pulled in there. And one day I had to wait for a half hour until somebody who beat me to the spot, he stayed there for about a half hour, didn't catch any fish, and then I proceeded to go and catch 3 fish off of that spot within an hour after going in right behind him. So, but the issue is I lost as many fish as I caught off of that spot because the rod that I was using was such a flimsy rod and didn't have the backbone that I really needed to drive that hook home when I was throwing that Kitech. So I solved the problem, I fixed the problem, but I didn't fix the problem in my head until, in terms of what I should have done, until I'm driving home. And I recognized the problem much sooner than that. I knew I was losing more fish than I ever should have been losing. And I should have sat down in the boat and said, okay, what's going on here? Why is it that I'm losing these fish? And what do I need to do differently? And I just never made that adjustment. So hopefully that's something that you can take out of this. The other thing that I want to point out here, guys, you will see one point. I did make an assessment that I was going to use forward-facing sonar. This was not a tournament that forward-facing sonar played like the other ones where we were just fishing for fish that we saw on the screen. This was a bank fishing tournament. That doesn't mean that it didn't come into play. You can see in this one fish catch that I made a cast, looked down and happened to see a fish right on the edge of the break of a roadbed and continued to bring that cast along until it was almost under the boat. And right as I got the bait under the boat, the fish was there. I had seen the fish there the whole time and was able to catch that fish using forward-facing sonar. Several times made casts to fish that I saw on the screen. Next tournament at Kentucky Lake, it's going to be a big player. So anyway, guys, I hope you like some of this content. Wish there were some bigger fish to show you on this recap, and stick around again tomorrow for another episode of Mark Fisher Outdoors. We appreciate it, guys. Take care.